everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today on my Student Wellbeing webinar. My name's Lowri and I am the Resident Wellbeing Lead at Student Roost. Now at Student Roost, we house over 20,000 students across the UK and our teams work in our properties 24/7. So you could say we have a little bit of experience on supporting students during their time at university. Now, personally, I've worked in the student accommodation sector for nearly 15 years now, and over the years, I've come across thousands of students that have had completely different experiences during their time at university. So today, I'm going to give you a few tips and tools to help guide you during your time at university. And hopefully, if you ever find yourself in a situation where you don't feel 100%, or maybe you can sense that your mental health is deteriorating, you can use the guidance from today to help you through any challenging times. Now, today we are going to give you 5 main focus points, so ways to focus on your well-being during your time at university. And at the end of this session as well, we will be giving away some useful information with a directory of tools and services available to support you during your time at university. And if you have got any questions at all, please use the chat box. And we do have the booth as well that you can pop along and say hello to us today. And the team at Student Roost will be there waiting to answer any queries that you may have. So when I look back at my time at university, I actually have 2 experiences to share. The first, I went to uni because I felt that's what I should do. I went through clearing and actually ended up as a first year in a shared HMO house with all third years. Now, my housemates were great and I enjoyed my course, but looking back, I guess I always felt a little bit isolated. I found it really difficult to make friends and I was also really homesick. Now, I didn't talk to anyone about the way that I was feeling, and looking back, knowing what I know now, if I had taken time to talk to someone, maybe someone at student services or someone on my course, my time at that university would have probably turned out a little bit differently. As it happened, it did lead me to actually decide that studying in an alternative city was the better path for me. I started uni elsewhere, went to live in a purpose-built student accommodation. I met loads of people, also first years, that were going through the same experience as me. I'm also lucky enough to remain friends with many of those individuals to today. So as you can see, your university experiences will differ and you may be faced with challenging times. So it is important for us to have ways to look after ourselves during these times. So as you can see, every journey is individual to the person experiencing it. And all roads will be bumpy at times, which is why it's so important to have the tools in place to look after yourself. So during this session, we are going to cover 5 tips to look after yourself. But you may ask, well, why is this so important? Why do I need to look after my well-being when I'm at university? Well, the reality is when you are at university, you're going to be faced with an array of different experiences. And they can range from moving to a new location, making new friends, living away from home. And also you'll be faced with high pressured times such as exams, dissertations, coursework. And you've also got that social aspect of university. So experiences that you may never have faced with before. So by putting things in place, by having coping mechanisms and practicing the art of mindfulness, it can help us massively when we are faced with these new experiences. So my first tip of today is not to put pressure on yourself. Between uni exams and everything that was in the previous slide, making the most of student life and planning ahead for the future. There's already so much to process on a daily basis as a student, so try not to add any extra pressure on yourself. Be kind to yourself. And don't sweat it if you break that New Year's resolution or decline to go out because you just want to have a time to yourself. Maybe you want a duvet day. Unrealistic goals and trying to please everyone can be a strain on your mental health, especially when you have other deadlines to meet as well, such as uni work. So slowing down can really benefit your mental health as well and help you to focus. So take time and do what's right for you. Do the best thing for you. So, handy tips, it's important to take time to maybe set some objectives and goals. That's really, really important. But please make sure they're achievable. There's no point in putting any unrealistic goals. So, if you are setting yourself an objective, just make sure that they are achievable. For example, you may want to set yourself a goal to complete your coursework a week before deadline. So this will help prevent putting yourself in a potentially high pressured environment. So when setting yourself a goal like this, always take a step back and think to yourself, what do I need to do to achieve this? So if you do want to finish that coursework a week before it's due, what do you need to do to achieve it? And the simplest thing you can do, I guess, with something like this is maybe set yourself an objective of 2 hours a week leading up to this date where you'll focus solely on that piece of work. So put your phone on silent. Take yourself to a quiet area with less distractions and spend 2 hours a week working towards this goal. So set yourself goals and objectives, yes, but make sure they're realistic. And ask yourself, what do I need to do to achieve this goal? And do little steps today, and your future self will thank you. So, plugging away quietly every week leading up to this day will just take away unnecessary pressures of cramming work in maybe before the coursework is due. So, my next tip to you is to stay active. It's important that we move. Remember that your physical health and your mental health are not wholly separate things, rather, they're interconnected. So, if any one aspect of your health is suffering, then it will have a knock on effect on the other. So, your university will have an array of societies focused on well-being. So don't be afraid to reach out, research and visit your union to find out what groups are accessible to you. You may be an avid runner or a swimmer or basketball player or just fancy doing something for the first time. You may have had a hobby when you were younger and you haven't done it for a while and you want to revisit your love for a past hobby. University can be a great way of doing this and learning new skills as well. So it can also be a great way of meeting like-minded people. So being self-connected as well, when we are looking at staying active, making sure that we are self-connected to your needs is a great way of planning for your day as well. And it is something that comes with practice. You may not automatically be amazing at doing it, but practice makes perfect. So when you wake up, try asking yourself how you're feeling. How am I feeling today? And just be self-aware. It can help massively when we're looking after our physical and mental health. So, if you wake up and you feel a little bit anxious or have a lot of things on your mind, try your best to get some fresh air. I had something a few weeks ago. I woke up and I just felt anxious. I don't know why, I just did. Maybe there was a lot of things going on. So, I knew that the best thing for me was just to change my scenery, go outside, go for a walk, and clear my head in order to refocus. So connecting with nature and moving your body can help massively with this as well. If you are experiencing periods of high pressure, such as coursework, deadlines, or exams, try your best as well, just to try and get fresh air at least once a day, just to assist you in looking after your well-being. You might want to text a friend to come along with you, or you may just want some time to yourself, put a podcast on, listen to some music. That's okay. Just do whatever's best for you. Now, my third tip today is make time for yourself. Uni is a great way to expand your social circle and experience new things. But it's all too easy to get caught up in the excitement, but recognize that you can say no to things. You might have a night off just to spend the night scrolling through social media, looking to see what your mates are up to. Don't worry about FOMO. Remember that taking time out to relax and putting down your phone is equally as important as well. There will be other nights out to enjoy, so set aside some you time and don't compare yourself to others as well. You might want to check out some meditation apps or YouTube tutorials to really center yourself during this time. or simply find maybe a quiet area in your accommodation, watch a film or snuggle up with a good book. Anything that you find is useful for you, just make sure that you do set time to do this. And when we're setting goals and objectives, like we did for the coursework, don't be afraid to set yourself time every week for you as well. And it can often be difficult when life is so busy, we often forget about ourselves. So just make sure that you do dedicate some time every week just for you and try to stick to it. You may want to set every day. You may want to set half an hour every morning to have you time. Or if you're like me and you want to set a more achievable goal, maybe once a week, my go-to is normally a Sunday evening. I will set some time just for myself to listen to music or read a book, just to help refocus for the week ahead. So finding time for yourself is really, really important when we're looking at our well-being as well. And the fourth tip today that I will give you is just to get talking. So, me time is great for a lot of reasons, but unsurprisingly, bottling up your worries or experiencing feelings of isolation isn't good for your mental health as a student. So, it helps to take the load off by sharing how you're feeling by talking to people, which may sound simple, but it may equally feel like one of the most challenging times and challenging things you can do if you are struggling. Just know that many of your fellow students are probably experiencing some of the same feelings. So try starting a conversation with your housemate, for example, or a neighbour down the hall. Or if your introversion is making it difficult to reach out, you may want to look at social media platforms that can help instigate initial conversations. At Student Roost, we have a bespoke social media platform that helps with this. It's called The Neighbourhood, and it enables people to get to know each other virtually, so other people within the accommodation, and it also allows you to connect with people before you move into the property. So it helps with that transition into a new property as well. But it's good for you to have a look, do some research, see if your accommodation provider does something similar, or maybe the university has a platform, because it really does help with transitioning into new experiences. And my fifth, but probably the most important tip that I will give you today is if you are finding that things are difficult for you at university, please do reach out and ask for help. Whether you're concerned about your mental health, university course, accommodation, or just finding it difficult to fit in, you may find that university isn't going how you thought it would. The image that you have in your head is not what's being played out in front of you. And that's quite normal, but talking to someone and asking for help to help you through any challenging situations will help massively. So you may have an accommodation team that can help to support you, or your peers at university or student services. Just make sure that you are aware that people are there to talk to you if you are going through anything during your time at university. And great websites as well, such as Student Minds and Student Space, are also great platforms to help you during your time at university. And they've got loads of blog content written by other students. So the likelihood is that you'll go on there and you'll read something written by someone that's going through the same as you. So it's a great way of just reassuring yourself and reminding yourself that you're not alone with the way that you're feeling. Now, thankfully, as I said, there are loads of amazing organisations and charities that are there to support you during your time at university. And we will be sharing a directory with you for you to keep and share with friends. But I just wanted to highlight a few things today. So, my advice to you is to make sure that you're registered with a GP. So, whether you're a first year and you're going to be going somewhere new for the first time, or you might be a second, third year postgrad and you've never registered with a GP in your university local community, my advice to you is to make sure that you do. And it's normally quite an easy process. You go onto the website, you complete an online form, and then you're registered then. And you might not need a GP today. You might not need it ever. You might not need it next week. But the following month, if you ever do need a GP, whether that's for your physical or mental health, it's always handy to know that you don't have to go through that process of signing up. You know exactly where your GP is. You were already registered. So it just enables you to get an appointment much quicker. The process is much quicker for you. The same with university. Familiarise yourself with student services. Do you know where they're located on your campus? Have you got their number or email address? Do you know how to get in touch with them? And similar, you might not need them today. You might not ever need them. But if you ever do, it's always good for you to have that information readily available, because it makes it a much less stressful kind of process for you to go through if you do need to kind of do all that research. Just make sure that you've got those tools in place, that you know exactly where to get that support. It's better to be over-prepared than under-prepared. And if you ever do need to speak to someone with urgency, if you feel like you need to speak to someone, just remember that wherever you're facing, the Samaritans are there. You can ring them for free, 24/7 a day, on 116 123. And if you're not a fan of talking on the phone, give us a shout is another amazing platform. You can talk to someone. If you text shout to 85258, you are able to chat to someone through text. So that can be an amazing platform for you to use as well if you ever do feel like you need it. And remember that every day is new. So if you're having a difficult day, remind yourself that every day is new. Take a deep breath and start again. Now, what should you look for when you're looking for accommodation? Finally, when looking for accommodation, we would always recommend that you do research to find out what's available. And we would always encourage students to maybe find somewhere that does offer this additional support if they ever do need it. Here at Student Roost, our property team members are available 24/7 to assist you with any support that you may need. And although we're not mental health specialists, we are great at signposting, and we've got some great links with the university. So we are able to put you in touch with that additional level of service if you ever did need it. And our teams are trained to confidently deal with any students that may be distressed, offering an open door policy, a warm welcome, and a chat when needed as well. So we would therefore recommend that you find somewhere that does offer you a safe space where you are able to chat to someone whatever time of the day it is, whether it's 2 in the afternoon or 2 a.m. Having someone to talk to is a great addition to any accommodation. Social spaces are also a great addition. Like you can see in these images, these are just a few of our social spaces in our properties. And our properties offer a range of different social spaces, from cinema rooms to gym facilities, study spaces and games rooms. So it's great to find yourself an accommodation that does maybe offer these social spaces. It's a great way of meeting new people, and as well, if you are going through high pressured periods such as exams or dissertations, it's great for you to remove yourself from your room maybe to a quieter area in your accommodation to study. And a change of scenery can help massively with your focus, and studying next to others that are going through the same as you as well can have a positive effect on your well-being. Another good thing to look out for as well is maybe your own space as an ensuite in your room. It's always a great addition to have an ensuite, so maybe don't have to share a bathroom with so many people, and it can do wonders for your self-care. So when you are looking to make time for yourself, it's always good when you have got that ensuite facility as well within your accommodation. So I really hope you have found my session today useful. If you have got any questions, please pop them into the chat, and myself and our lovely team at Student Roost will make sure that we do get back to you. You can also join us today by visiting our virtual booth, where you can ask loads of questions about living with us in one of our properties. And there's also some property guides that we can give you to download as well, and PDFs that you can take away from today as well. So what I'm going to do, as we've got a little bit of time left on the session today, I'm just going to be able to see going to look to see if there's any questions that I can go back to today. So let me have a quick look. Bear with me. Okay. Would you say it's important to have sports facilities in an accommodation? Julius Richardson, thank you for asking that question. It depends what's best for you. So everyone's needs are different. If for your well-being, you feel that having that sport facility is something that will make your life easier at university, maybe it's something that you look for to look after your well-being, then having an accommodation that offers this additional sports facility is always a good bonus. I'm conscious that not every accommodation does. So if you do your research and if that's something that's important to you, then finding an accommodation that does offer you that level of support or that sports facility is a great addition. So yeah, if that's something that's important to you, then definitely try and find an accommodation that caters to your needs. So Powell has asked, what would you recommend to people who are really stressed because they've fallen out with their flatmates? So Powell, I'm really sorry to hear that you're having some, a difficult situation with your flatmates at the moment. It is difficult sometimes when you are moving in with others that you might not have lived with before. It's important that you talk to someone. So my first point of call was for you to have a discussion with your housemates, maybe. And then, depending on where you are living, whether you are in a purpose built student accommodation or whether you're in a university halls of residence or HMO property, I would say that if you haven't been able to resolve the issues in-house, if you've had that conversation with your housemates and you haven't been able to resolve it, then please do reach out to the support that's available. It's difficult for me to know exactly what kind of scenario you're in, so please feel free to come to the booth and we'll be able to answer your question more specifically. But for example, anyone that lives within our properties, we do have a team that work in reception. So you would be able to go down, have a chat to them, and they would be able to try and resolve it for you. So if you do want to pop along to the booth, I can find out a little bit more about exactly what's gone on and give you more specific advice then. So I hope that helps. But definitely talking about the way that your house has made you feel and hopefully reach out to people that would be able to help resolve it would definitely be my recommendation. Don't make sure that you do talk to someone. Don't hide away from it, because that's not going to be any good for your well-being and others within the house as well, or the flat. So yeah, reach out to someone that will be able to support you if possible. Okay, let me have a look. Okay, so what other options do physically disabled students have other than physical exercise to control anxiety levels? So there are loads of other things that you could maybe see is available. As far as anxiety levels are concerned, it does depend on the individual, what works best for you. And Jess, I'd be more than happy to have a conversation with you in the booth. That's absolutely fine. So I can just find out a little bit more about your circumstances. But as far as anxiety levels are concerned, talking to people about the way that you're feeling will hopefully help you. Another thing as well, as far as anxiety is concerned, practicing the art of mindfulness is a great way of helping you, and things that we've gone through today. So making sure that you have got tools in place, depending on your circumstance, if there are any kind of societies that may help you. The University Student Services as well will also have a department that will be able to give you a little bit more guidance on things that the universities are running that may help you massively. So yeah, there's loads of things that can help with anxiety, but something that tends to work quite well are just finding what works best for you. Mindfulness, Maybe talking to others is something, if you are feeling anxious, talking to someone would be my recommendation first of all, and reaching out to student services and the societies as well to see what's available for you based on your needs at university, because every student's needs will differ. So you need to make sure that you do have had a chat and find out what's available to support you at university, because that's really important. But if you did want another chat, then obviously pop to the booth and I'll be able to have a more specific kind of conversation with you as well and find out what support's available to you. Okay, Maeve has said, how do you balance studying and socializing when living in such a fun environment? Okay, so Maeve, if you are someone that likes to go out and socialize, that's absolutely great. But in most accommodations, so say for example, in one of our biggest student accommodation, we've got the social areas, we've also got a study space. So I guess it depends on how you like to live during your time at university, but there will always be, especially in our properties that we provide, other areas. So there'll be that social kind of space, but there'll also be the study space as well. So as far as balancing studying and socializing, I guess setting objectives and goals can help massively with this as well. So if you do want to make sure that your education, that you've got a strict kind of routine in place to make sure that that balancing kind of exercise is there, coping mechanism in place. I guess just making sure that you are dedicating time to make sure the coursework is completed. It enables you then to take stress off. The reason why I talked about setting a deadline the week before the course work is due, because I'm talking from past experience. I was always the one that left it last minute at uni, and it didn't really get me anywhere. Even though I passed, it was fine. But looking back, I wish I had set weekly kind of targets, because it would have been able to assist me in having that balance and kind of manage that balance much better. So you need to know what's best for you and setting yourself goals and objectives to make sure that you do have that balance in place will help you massively, I'm sure. So hopefully that has helped. Okay. Will my accommodation, sorry, Shankruk, will my accommodation be able to help me if I have any health problems upon my arrival? As an international student, when I arrive in the UK, I might get sick due to weather change, changing sleeping patterns, or any other reasons. I might not be able to visit the GP immediately. What immediate help would the accommodation be able to provide? So, with this question, so what I would recommend that prior to you arriving, potentially, you may want to reach out to your accommodation provider and just have that conversation, and maybe do a little bit of research to try and kind of prevent you from being in a situation where you may be faced with things that you weren't prepared for. So, if you think that actually when you arrive in the UK and when you come over, when you move into the accommodation, that these are issues that you may be faced with, there's no reason why potentially you may want to register with a GP before you arrive. You may want to put these tools in your back pocket before you arrive. So maybe finding out who the local GP is, how do you contact student services, and all of this information. If you find out, and the accommodation team should be able to help you with this. So when you are looking for accommodation, please do ask these questions, because the team, depending on where you go, but Student Roost, we'd be able to give you this information, let you know who the nearest GP is, give you a link to the form online so you can do it online. As long as that tenancy agreement is signed, then obviously you've got that in place, so you know that you will be living in the accommodation. As long as you've got all of this information, there's no reason why you may putting things in place prior to arrival might relieve some of the stress when you do arrive. But hopefully, by having these things like this in place, it will help you. But when you do arrive, if there is a team 24/7 on site, then they will be able to support you and make sure that, if you have got any queries or questions that you'd like assistance with after you arrive, then they'll also be able to signpost you with that as well. So hopefully that's helped.